Hey guys, it's Mac again. Welcome back to the channel, and thanks for joining me for today's episode of On the Road Again. And you guessed it, putting in a little road time today, thinking about 3-gun, and wanted to answer a question that I had from a longtime subscriber and a frequent poster on a lot of my videos, Chris Peralta. I want to thank you for your question. Thanks for posting. Today's question, Chris asked if I could just talk a little bit about shotgun shell loads for 3-gun. That's a great question. One that I think people really don't talk about a whole lot, because it's just kind of understood sometimes that you're supposed to just magically know to go down and buy a case of shotgun shells from Walmart or wherever and just show up to the match and shoot them. And they're supposed to go bang every time, and they're supposed to break every clay. But if you know a little bit more about the thought process that goes into selecting shotgun shells, and also that it's just not about the shells. This is really a two-part question. You can't really talk about shotgun shells without also talking about choke selection. So I got a few bullet points that I want to just cover today when it comes to buying shotgun shells for 3-gun. The first would be that you have to consider what type of shotgun you use and the type of operating system that shotgun uses. Now, I personally use a Benelli M2, which is an inertia-driven system and has been known to be a little bit more finicky about shotgun shells. And if you try to push the envelope a little too much with lighter loads, it's possible that you could run into some malfunctions. The inertia system relies on the recoil impulse and the inertia of the shotgun shell pushing the bolt back. So if you don't have enough force from the powder in the shotgun shell, you may run into problems. So that's one thing to consider. Now, other than that, the inertia system has a lot of great qualities. Most importantly, that it's supposedly more reliable. You don't have to clean it as often, and you don't have as much problems from gas and carbon buildup from a gas-operated shotgun. So you got to weigh the positives and negatives. Other types of shotguns that are gas-operated, the Mossberg JM Pro, should do a lot better with a lot wider range of shotgun shells, from the lighter loads to the heavier loads. Also, the Remington Versamax is a little bit of a hybrid system and is known to be very reliable. The downside of those shotguns is that they're heavier, for one, because they have more parts. The gas system weighs more, but positive being that maybe they're more reliable with different ranges of shotgun shells. And we're talking about lighter and heavier loads. When I say a light load, I'm talking about something that's usually less than 1,200 feet per second. Like, for instance, my go-to load. My go-to shell, just, overall, to cover a wide range of targets in a match, is a Winchester Double, 2 3/4 grams of powder, 1 ounce or maybe 1 1/8 ounce of shot. That's going to run about 1,150 to 1,180 feet per second. Really soft shooting shell in my Benelli, and I have really good results with that. That's a 7.5 size shot in that shell. Pretty standard loads, and what I would say most beginners and the majority of people shoot. Let's just say you run down to Walmart or you run down to Academy Sports. Actually, this weekend, opening weekend of dove season in Georgia. So right now, shotgun shells are everywhere in stores, and there's some really good deals going on actually too. If you just pick up some dove loads or some target loads, which are typically going to be about 3 to 3 1/4 grams of powder and 1 1/4 ounce of shot, those are going to be just fine for 3-gun. They may have a little bit more recoil, and I'm talking about a tiny amount more, but they're going to be reliable in every shotgun you put them in. And you should be able to break almost any clay, knock down almost any steel target with those sort of standard dove loads or target loads. Those are going to be between about 1,200 to 1,300 feet per second, and just in my experience, in my opinion, that's about as hot as you need to go on shotgun shells. There are some fancy targets, steel targets, that maybe you need to hit a little harder to turn a spinner or to knock a heavy steel target down. But given the choice of shooting some shotgun shell 1,500 feet per second that just knocks the crap out of me, or double tapping it with one of my standard shells, I don't know, I'd probably rather just double tap it and not have to worry about loading a special shell off my belt. So that, as far as specific loads, that's pretty much the range. Then you want to also consider the size of the shot that you're using. 7.5 and 8 is probably the majority of the standard load that most people are going to use. If I've got an all clay stage, like a jungle run or something, most of the time I like to use 9s. You get a lot more shot inside of the shell, and as you know, for a clay target, all you got to do is get one pellet in it to consider it a break. So I find that I can push my speed a little bit if I use 9s. So I'll keep a few boxes of those in my bag for the matches. And then as far as going larger on the shot, the size 6 shot I think has a place in everybody's range bag. Some steel targets that are maybe a little further away or a little heavier, or you really want to power them down, I like to have some 6s as well. But you got to be careful, not all matches allow 6s. So make sure you read the rules before you go to the match to make sure that it's okay to shoot those. Now the other types of shells that you need to consider, and this is because most matches now are incorporating these types of targets, are buckshot and slugs. Pretty much every match I've been to in the past 2 years has had slug targets or either optional slug targets. So now I take them to every single match. And the only types of slugs that I use are the Fiocchi low recoil 12 gauge slugs. I've just always had such great luck with those. They cycle in my Manelli just fine, and I actually get good accuracy out of them. So those are my go-to slug. There's a couple of other kinds that people use a lot that I've never used. I think Remington makes a pretty good low recoil slug, so you may have to check into that. But for me, the Fiocchis have always worked really, really well, and now I keep a couple of cases of them at my house pretty much all the time. With the caveat being that you do need to make sure that you always go out and zero your slugs to know where you're hitting. Always zero your slugs. Otherwise, buckshot, I always use double alt buckshot, and I just usually buy the cheapest thing that I can find in the store. They're always about $1 a shell or more. I think the last match that I went to, I bought a couple of the 5-round packs of Federal double alt buck, and they work just fine. I mean, they usually hit whatever steel target I need to hit, so I don't really put a ton of thought into those. I just pick up whatever I can find. Now the other aspect that is crucial to shotgun shell selection is choke selection. You pretty much cannot go to a 3-gun match now with only one choke in your gun, because if you do, a tricky match director is going to make your life hard on you by varying the distances and the difficulty of the shots, so that there's no such thing as one choke fits all anymore. You pretty much got to have a full set and be able to change chokes depending on what the stage calls for. So now I run everything from a diffusion choke, which is pretty much the most wide open that you can run, all the way down to a modified. I've stuck a modified in for some small steel targets that were, like completely across a bay, because I didn't want to have to move closer to be able to hit them. So my two go-to chokes are the diffuser, which I'll use on everything under 15 yards, and the bigger steel poppers, or the small steel, like 4-inch steel, that I know they're so easy to knock down that 1 or 2 shot will essentially knock them down. And my other go-to choke is light mod. I pretty much shoot 99.9% of shotgun targets in any match with those 2 chokes. And basically, if there's anything that I'm nervous about being a little too far for the diffuser, I'm putting the light mod in. And then there's those, niche targets where a stage comes in and you think, well, I need to use a full, or I need to use a modified. Those are pretty rare occurrences. But the key here is to know what your shotgun does with each choke. So it's going to mean a little bit of range time where you're trying out different shells through different chokes, and you're patterning your shotgun, or either you're trying, putting targets at certain distances. That way when you get out to a match, you know, all right, that steel popper is at 25 yards. I'm shooting a 7.5 through a light mod choke, and I'm going to knock that down. Or, you know, you got these knockdown steel that are 10 yards away, and you know, okay, I'm shooting diffuser with my 7.5, and I'm going to just power through those things. A little bit of practice time is going to pay huge dividends here, and maybe keeping a little logbook with your different distances and your targets and what's your go-to save you some time at a match. And here's just another little pro tip about figuring out what load and what choke is best for you on a given stage. Always go and if you come up to a stage that's going to have a lot of shotgun targets, make sure you go and reset some of the targets, either the very first couple of shooters, or either sometimes if we finish a stage early and we go over and we're watching the next group finish out the next stage we're going to, I'll go and reset some of the targets with the other squad, because you can tell how easy it is for targets to fall or knock them over just by how they fall when you reset them. So like these little 4-inch steel plates that we shoot a lot at Atlanta 3-gun, you can almost breathe on them and knock them down. So, you know, I'll put one up there and let it fall off and see how easy it is to knock it off. And I know, okay, if I hit it with 2 pellets, it's going down. So I'm going to use a diffusion choke. Or the big steel poppers, the ones that are calibrated for 9mm, you can get an idea of how easy they fall. You know, if you reset it and it falls back down and you got to really, pull tricks out to get it to stay up, you're thinking, okay, that thing is really easy to knock down. So always reset targets. Number one, because your squad mates will like you a lot, but number two, because you get a lot of information about the targets that you might not otherwise get. So in summary, shotgun shell load selection for your shotgun should be pretty simple. And when you're starting out, I would advise doing what I do. I found a load that runs in all of my shotguns 100% of the time, and just for instance, for me, that's a State 3 1/4, 1 1/4, 12 gauge with 7.5 size shot. It's one of the cheapest loads that you can buy. It's about $5 a box, and I keep a case of that in my toolbox in my truck all the time, because if I run into a problem at a match, I know that I can go grab those shells and they will run in my shotgun. Once you find something that is a go-to load for you, then you can tinker around and try different shells to try to improve your performance somehow. And that's how I've moved on to the Winchester Double A's, which are the lighter loads that run less than 1,200 feet per second. About 1,200 feet per second is about the threshold for what I found will run in all shotguns. So as long as you're above that, you should be fine. Then also pay close attention to your choke selection and know what your shotgun will do with the different chokes that you have. And if you do need to invest in extra chokes, and most people do, I really like Briley chokes. That's what I use in all my shotguns. So once again, thanks for joining me. I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that maybe now you know a little bit more about fine-tuning your shotgun and your shotgun shell loads. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment below on what runs well for you in your shotgun. And if you have any questions that you want to submit for On the Road Again, leave it below in the comments. Once again, this is Mac. Thanks for joining me. Be safe out there on the range, and we'll see you next time. Once again, thanks for watching. And I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. You can do that by clicking on the video on the upper left. As a subscriber, you'll be immediately notified every time I upload a video on a weekly basis. And these videos include guns and gear reviews, as well as content that's always related to 3-gun. And also, to watch more of my most popular videos, click on the video on the lower left. Once again, this is Mac. As always, be safe out there, and we'll see you next time.